In this video, we are going to talk about the issue statement, and specifically we are going to write the issue and we're going to talk about the best approach. This is approach number one, and really I think it's the best approach, especially if you have the perfect word syndrome or if you have great difficulty really starting off. So instead of writing an intro, you're going to write the thesis, which is the most important statement in the essay. So that's going to be the first thing you start with. You're going to move on to the body, then the conclusion, and then perhaps a little bit counterintuitively, you're actually going to finish with the intro. But once you have all these parts, it's easy to write this part. And so you will find yourself sitting there trying to find that perfect word and wasting 20 minutes on the intro. So that said, let's go to the issue here. And the issue is students should only take courses in college that have a direct bearing on their future careers. Okay, so here are the directions. The directions are usually pretty standard. Sometimes here they mix up the wording a little bit, but essentially here where it says consider ways in which it might or might not hold true, they're asking to talk about what's called a concession point, which is one of the body paragraphs, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. But first off, as I said, most important sentence in your essay is the thesis. So what makes a good thesis? Well, here are 3 points, and we're going to actually use these 3 points from keep the thesis short and sweet, choose a side, and of course, most important sentence. We're going to keep these in mind, not necessarily 3 so much because we've already said that, but really these 2 when evaluating a thesis. So thesis number 1, a college curriculum should be developed with the goal in mind of designing a course around the career a student may pursue after graduation, as it will be more relevant and could sometimes lead to a successful outcome. Okay, first thing, is the thesis short and sweet? It's about 4 lines long. It's tending to ramble here, and the answer to that is obviously no. However, many students think that this is a great thesis. It is not, though. It is rambling, it's not getting to the point, and it's definitely not concise. We talked about in another video, when you write, you want to be as concise as possible. Look at this. A college curriculum should be developed with the goal in mind of designing. Well, college curriculum should be developed around the career of a student. We can get rid of all this extra jargon right here, as we're going to do in a second. So already it's not short and sweet. Then it has this comma here, as it will be more relevant. What is it? Is it the college curriculum? Is it the career? Is it what's going on? So it's a little bit vague. And then notice here, could sometimes lead to a successful outcome. Again, that's kind of wordy, and it's not really choosing a side. It is sort of choosing a side, but it's a little bit wishy-washy. So you want to be a little bit more declarative in your thesis. You want to say your point, and it's okay because in the body paragraph yourself, you're going to show how the issue is not always black and white. And again, that's our concession statement. But at least in your thesis, keep it short and sweet, make it clear as to which side you are choosing. Now, let's have a look at another thesis. A college curriculum should be designed around the career a student will pursue upon graduation. Is that short and sweet? Yes. Is it clear? Oh, definitely. There's no extra words in there. Choose a side. Well, this should be designed upon or around the career a student will pursue. That's very clear. So there. Both of those are fulfilled. And, well, it's the most important sentence, and that's definitely fulfilled that we've done a very good job here. And that's what we're going for in a thesis, not this long kind of rambling type of sentence. So we got our thesis. Now, instead of going back to the intro, we're actually going to move on to our body. And of course, you should know what you are writing in your body paragraphs because you have already brainstormed and outlined them, as we did in a previous video. So we're assuming you've done that, and now we go to the body paragraph. Students should only take courses in college that have a direct bearing on their future careers is what I'm going to keep here, of course, always at the top so you can remember what the issue is. Now, here's my body. I wrote this. I came up with this. This is my idiosyncratic or particular way of answering this question. Your response may differ, even if you agree with my thesis or have the exact same thesis. However, it's important as we go through this body to know what I am doing. And so I, again, sort of introduce the topic, and I come up here with a hypothetical situation, hypothetical example. And this hypothetical example is a British lit student right here. And the reason I'm doing this is because we want to be as specific as possible. Be specific. Why? Well, you don't want to say, oh, a student could take a course and that course has nothing to do with their future, therefore they waste time. Is that persuasive? No, but let's read this. So let's start from here. After this introductory sentence, I have, if a British literature student's focus is, say, Chaucer and late medieval English writing, his or her knowledge of wormholes or the nuances of French etiquette is going to have very little bearing on his or her career. Sadly, the student will often be forced to spend an extra year, if not longer, struggling to complete these courses. See how specific that is? I'm communicating that same point that was very vague and general, but now it's not general and it becomes a lot more persuasive. So we're going to move on here because you can notice these little dots right here. It means that this body paragraph is not over. I've written a longer body paragraph. Not all body paragraphs have to be this long, but as you can see here, mine goes all the way down here. So if you write one that was the previous page and maybe end there, that's fine. The thing is, you're trying to be specific and you're trying to be persuasive and you're trying to have logical flow. Speaking of logical flow, notice the words I used. Meanwhile, there's transition. That student's goal of writing a dissertation, becoming an expert in the field, becomes ever more distant. So you're giving reasons why it's bad to force someone to take courses outside of their field of study. In the end, notice again another logical flow, transition. It is not unheard for a student to graduate and take some job unrelated to literature just to cover the cost of an extra year of tuition. So again, we're showing the negatives of taking a course outside your study. And so now this becomes very effective. And then at this point, again, another transition. Of course, we could substitute here in almost any other major in the story is the same. So I give more specifics. Anything here from concert pianist, struggling with statistics, scientist who, oh look, has to take a British literature requirement. I'm giving, again, specific, and I'm making it not just a British literature student, but all majors. Therefore, again, I'm making this persuasive. And then finally, I have a nice concluding sentence. And this is important. When you end your body paragraph, whether it's your first body paragraph, in the case here, second or third, it has to have its own mini conclusion, a sense of finality. Here I use the word ultimately. Forcing students to take classes outside of their intended careers can not only be costly and time consuming, but can also cause them to lose inspiration. So focus on inspiration. So you can see I'm kind of going back to the thesis again. That's why it's always important to have the issue up above you or even the thesis, so you know here when you write this final sentence of your body paragraph that it matches up with what you're trying to say. So that's what we've done here. And now we're going to assume that I write another body paragraph. This is just one. This is body paragraph number 1. We're going to assume I've written a second one based on the other points I had mentioned in the previous video. I believe it was you're missing out time that could be spent actually working that field. So that would be my second body paragraph. Now I have my third and final body paragraph. And what is that going to be? It's going to be what we call a concession point. And I already wrote this down a little bit earlier in this video. And a concession point is when you take either a look at the other side of the argument, meaning that, yeah, sometimes we should force students to take certain courses. There should be requirements. Or you can qualify or limit one of your previous points. And so I'm going to take the second course here. And at one point I said, they shouldn't be forced to take a topic outside of their course of study. And I, gave the example with Chaucer and them having to study wormholes in physics. And so in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, well, there's a concession to that. There are sometimes students who are undecided. And these undecided students, well, they should explore different fields of study. So you can see I'm qualifying my first body paragraph, and that's fine. In fact, this is exactly what the GRE wants you to do. They want you to think on both sides of the issue. They don't want you to be completely black and white. They want you to see a little bit of that gray area in the middle. This shows analytical, critical thinking, and that's something you'll definitely need for grad school. So make sure you do this. Remember, this also matches up with the language and the direction. So if you don't put in this concession point, it definitely diminishes your overall score. So again, the concession point is the third body paragraph. Here it is. We've written it. And so now that we've done this, we can what? Go to the conclusion. So again, we have the issue at the top, and this is great because we know what our thesis is. We're simply going to restate thesis, cover, maybe bring in a point or two from the body, but mainly restate your thesis. And this is key. Do not introduce new information. Don't say, oh, I have all these other new ideas I didn't think about. I'm going to talk about a student who is not able to pay student loans. And then, no, that time is over for that. We have finished our body paragraph. So we're simply wrapping it all up. That's all we're doing here. So you can see in this case, we have here Colleges today have become a ritual in which students forced of their time are required to take courses outside of their area of expertise. So it's kind of summarizing, giving us a very big picture. And then here we're restating the thesis. The cost of this system is not only wasted years for students in lecture halls, but also less time working in their respective fields. So there's restatement of thesis. And then finally, and you don't always have to do this, but this is a good parting thought. Kind of leave the reader with something to ponder. By depriving society of a motivated workforce, even if for 1 year, colleges may be doing society more harm than good. So again, I am very general. And so what I tell people about the conclusion is it's not that important. It can even be one sentence. This could have been my conclusion right here. The cost of the current college system is not only waste years for students in lecture halls, but also less time working in their respective fields. Period. It's not the best, but again, they're not looking so much at your conclusion. They're looking at your body paragraphs and how you reason. But if you do have enough time, a nice 3-sentence conclusion like this is perfect. Do not write more. This is as long as any conclusion really has to be. Okay, so we're thinking, oh, okay, we're fine. We're finished. We've done the conclusion. But remember, in this approach, we started with the thesis. So we still get to write our introduction, but that's not a bad thing because now it can flow together. We know what we're going to say. We've already written the essay. And so this is, of course, our thesis statement here in the highlighted part. And so you only have to write this part now. And I've started off with a general statement. So it's always good to introduce topic as your very first sentence of your introduction. Introduce the topic. And then from the end of that sentence to the thesis, you should, which is over here, you should transition. And oftentimes the transition doesn't have to be this long. It can simply be one sentence, maybe up to here. But I added a little bit more. And by the time I get to this point right here, right before my thesis, it should flow logically. So now we get to this point where you're ready for my thesis. I've introduced the topic, I've built it up, and now I'm going to tell you what I think. And that's how you want to approach this essay versus looking at a blank page and thinking, wow, what am I going to write here? I don't know, because you know what? It's hard sometimes, and it's not the most important part of your essay. That's right here, and then going to the body and backing up this thesis statement is what's key. So that's method number 1.